Hey listeners, here we are, coming up to the end of 2019, and I just want to say thank you so much for continuing to support the podcast over the past year, how we've gone over a few changes, how I've taken on the role of being host most of the time, and none of you seem to hate that, so thank you so much. And we're going to close out 2019 with some old favorites from the podcast, so stay tuned, and for now, let's dive into what's going on at the website. If you haven't seen it on the site, we got a contest going on, first and foremost. Wargroove and Vampire are being given away on the PS4, The Surge 2 for the Xbox One, and a copy of A Plague Tale: Innocence for the PC. If you want to check out any of these titles, this is a good way to go about it. I mean, I personally have played plenty of Wargroove and thoroughly enjoy it, so I can definitely recommend that one, and all the others look great. Plague Tale has been on my want list for a bit as well. So the contest is going on until January 1st, so please get over to the website, click on the button, enter it, and see what you win. There's been no new features, but since we're coming up to 2020, I did want to remind folks that that awesome top 25 RPGs of the 2010s has been out for a little bit, and if you're curious what RPG Fan finds to be some of the best RPGs of the past decade, more or less, then go give that article a read and see what all our contributors had in there. Contrary to Jano's disdain for Romancing Saga 3, Lana Hags reviewed Saga Scarlet Grace Ambitions and seemed to really like it a lot. So go check out her review up on the site, and maybe this is the saga for you to get in on, because this one definitely clicked. I talked about it a little bit on the podcast. Zach Wilkerson did his review of Hero Land, which, yeah, I agree. It's not great, unfortunately. We also, in tandem with his written review, got out a video review based on his words as well, so if you want to consume that either way, we got you covered. Over in the music department, Brave Wave published the Resurrection Panzer Dragoon Saga 20th Anniversary Arrangement soundtrack, and Neil Chandran gave it a listen, going back to some retro Sega Saturn tunes, and so far it seems to stack up pretty well from what he had to say about it. So it's an hour of some beautiful music, and I recommend you go give it a listen. That's it, folks. We got a whole bunch of end-of-year features and such coming out the gates in the coming weeks, so stay tuned on the website for that. And for all your other news, reviews, and more, go to RPGFan.com. Now on to the final episode of 2019, Random Encounter 177. Hello listeners, welcome back to another episode of Random Encounter. This is episode 177, the last episode of 2019, trying to squeak it in just before we finished off the month. And I have brought back some wonderful folks. The band, you may say, is brought back together. Kaylin Argyros, welcome back. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Happy holidays to everybody. I'm glad to be back.
And also glad to have another Mike on the mic. Mike Sollosi, welcome back.
It's great to be back, Greg.
Thank you. It's been a while since we've had you on Random.
Yeah, I think it was the summertime. I'm not sure exactly. I've been busy with other podcasts.
Oh, do tell.
Well, okay, that's a story for another time.
Exactly, a story for the end of the episode. You can skip the entire episode if you want to hear what Mike has to say about Retro Encounter. Anyways, moving forward with this podcast, though, we've got a few things to talk about coming up to the end of the year. We have some speculations, some resolutions, some possible predictions. I don't know. At the end of the year, people just want to figure out what's coming up next. It's kind of human nature to always want to know what is around the corner, I guess. It's not often we're just content with just being like, I'm good here in the present, as much as we all try to be mindful and present. It doesn't always work out. But that being said, we have been playing some games. We've had some great news. I don't know, folks, what do you want to talk about? Great news first or great games first?
That's a really tough decision. I don't know.
Well, considering your enthusiasm for a certain series, last time you were on, Caitlin, let's just pick it right up, going right back to the Trails series. some announcements were made recently with, I'm going to let you pronounce it because I probably will butcher both the names. Well, Zero is pretty obvious. So we had Zero and then, what's the other one called? Ao?
Ao.
It is
Ao
Ao.
no Kiseki.
And right now they're being localized, or not localized, but just kind of re-released.
We hope.
Yeah.
Zero no Kiseki and Ao no Kiseki were PSP games that came out in the late 2000s. And this is the announcement for the Kai versions of both of them. Kai meaning like strong or great. And so it's coming to Japanese PS4s in 2020.
In spring of 2020
Yep.
is when they're going to be releasing them. So yeah, this is I actually was going to leave with the other game because like this is honestly I'm more excited about this than the announcement of the next game in the series because we've been missing these games for a long time. It's been a glaring hole in the series outside of Japan, and the biggest reason why, the biggest roadblock to localizing the games is just the platforms that they were on, because they were on old, defunct platforms, and the PC ports weren't reliable because, well, Falcom didn't do the PC port of OW, so it was difficult to try to think about porting these, it was difficult to try thinking about localizing these games because, what system would you put them on? You can't bring them to PSP, you can't bring them to Vita. You could bring one of them to PC, but the other one is not by Falcom. So there were legal issues. There were, logistical issues in, thinking about trying to get these games out west. And now they're going to be ported to PS4, which makes things a lot more realistic in terms of localizing. It should be much easier for these games to get picked up by a publisher out here to be localized. And I think Kondo even was recently asked about this, and he specifically mentioned, apart from people wanting to play the games, that they also have never been released in English. So it seems likely that getting the games out to the West was part of the consideration in doing these ports now. And that's fantastic because they're both great games. I think everyone who's a fan of the series will enjoy playing them. We don't quite know, of course, like when we're going to get them. It hasn't been announced that we're getting them at all, but I think it's just a matter of time instead of a matter of if. But when we do get them, it'll be great because it'll provide a lot of context that fans have been missing for the series and specifically for Cold Steel 3 and hopefully Cold Steel 4, which I'm hoping comes out in 2020. They're just updated remaster ports. They're not going to be like a remake. So it'll look very much similar to like the original PSP versions of the game, but with some added benefits like a turbo mode, being able to skip cutscenes, UI improvements. They mentioned that the games would be fully voiced. Now, the Evolution versions of the game were voiced. It's not clear if they mean that they're just going to use the Evolution voices or if they're going to do something else. But assuming that would stick around for a hopeful localization, that'd be really great because the voices in the Evolution versions of the games have been a really great addition.
Are those the PC ports? The Evolution ones?
No, those
Evolution games are on Vita.
Those were PS3 ports, at least for Trails in the Sky.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. There were Vita ports of Trails in the Sky, which were PSP games. And for some additional context, I mean, Trails fans will know this, but these are the two games referred to as the Crossbell games because that's the city where they're both set. And in the greater Trails Kiseki cycle, Trails of Cold Steel 3 is game number 8 in this grander series, and Trails of Cold Steel 4 is game number 9. But these are the games 4 and 5 that have never come out in English officially yet. So for several years, fans that have been following this series well can play games 1 through 3 and 6 through 8, but they were missing a lot, like Caitlin said, a lot of the context in games 4 and 5, which take place roughly at the same time as games 6 and 7, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're playing concurrently with Cold Steel 1 and 2.
So people that were playing Cold Steel 1 and 2 but haven't played these were hearing about events in the two Crossbell games while they were playing Cold Steel 1 or 2. So this is some missing puzzle pieces that worldwide fans should be very, very interested in. I'm extremely excited for these, and they have a reputation for being excellent among among the fans in general. So I am, as someone who has played 3 Trails games and enjoyed all 3, I'm really excited to hopefully eventually get to these in English, like, should they be localized. And I share Caitlin's optimism. I think it's a matter of time and not a matter of if.
And back in the summer, like just before Cold Steel 3 released, Scott over at our Twitch channel played through 0, I believe, on the Twitch channel.
Yeah, I think he played through fan translations of both of them.
Yeah, with some approval, and I think had his hands on the Japanese versions. But yeah, he did the fan translations just to kind of help fill in those gaps a bit for people who are watching. But it'll be nice for people to actually have a proper translation for themselves, and I think it's going to be definitely a question of when, because it just seems to make good sense. I mean, Cold Steel 3 didn't launch as strongly as Cold Steel 2 did, but it's still selling well, and it reviewed high.
Yeah. I think there's a reason why these games are coming to PS4, and they, instead of say them starting with the Sky trilogy, because if that was what their goal was, just to get all the games on PS4, and they weren't concerned at all with potentially getting these games out west, then it would have made, I think, more sense to maybe, port the Sky trilogy to PS4. Those games are on PS3, but I don't know, PS3 is they've moved on to PS4, and if that was really just the concern of having all of the games on one system, you'd think that they would start with the Sky trilogy, but starting with 0 and OW is a really good move in terms of having some version of all the games theoretically, should they get localized, available outside of Japan. So I don't know. I'm reading a little bit into the decision to do this with 0 and OW as opposed to like starting with Sky first. But like I'm hoping I'm right. Like I'm hoping that a major consideration for this is, hey, let's put these games in a format so that they can be easily localized, because you all need to play. If you're fans of the series, yeah, you need to play these games.
And then with that, there was then the announcement of a new game, which I almost forgot. But you, go ham.
Hajimari no Kiseki.
So this is the next game in the series. It takes place after Trails of Cold Steel 4. It's not the beginning of the next arc. It's going to be a bridge game, so it's gonna kind of be similar to Trails in the Sky the Third, which was basically a bridge game between the Sky games and the Crossbell games, and even set up some elements for the Erebonia arc as well. So we should get some great backstory tidbits. We'll get some info on what's happening since the end of Cold Steel 4, and we'll probably get some really cool hints and lead up into the next arc, wherever that arc may be. But it sounds like it's going to be kind of a cool experience, because it's going to feature not 1, not 2, but 3 protagonists. The labels for the protagonist are a hero, a liberator, and a hermit. And we know that Reen is going to be the hero, and Lloyd from the Crossbell games will be the liberator. And we don't know who the hermit is. He's a mysterious figure, but we'll presumably find more out about that as we get closer to the game coming out. And along with 3 protagonists are going to be 3 storylines taking place presumably at least at some point concurrently, and giving players the option to jump back and forth between them. They're calling this a cross-story system because you'll be able to jump across stories to see events from different perspectives. We don't know how freely you can do this, whether it's something you can do at will, or if you need to reach a milestone or a checkpoint, or something like they have chapters and you have to do it in between chapters. But it sounds like a really cool concept to not only tell the story, but to mix up gameplay, like change settings, change characters, stuff like that.
Keeps it fresh. It's also momentarily relevant. I think Kyle's playing Front Mission 3 for the site on Twitch, and that was one that had 2 different storylines from 2 different character perspectives. And while it's fun for the replay value to go kind of back through, it would have been nice just to be able to swap back and forth and be like, meanwhile, let's see what they're doing, because it's basically what happens at one point. It just kind of diverges, and then you never really go back to the other side of it until they kind of all meet up and are like, this is kind of what we were up to.
This sounds a lot like the game that I recently finished, in fact, jumping between different storylines and different characters. But that we can save that for later in the episode.
Fair enough.
Speaking of characters, there are going to be over 50 playable characters in this game, guys.
Yeah,
which probably means just about everybody from the previous arcs and a few additional new characters.
Trails in the Sky 3rd brought back like every playable character from the previous 2 games, plus a handful of new ones, plus at least one reformed villain. So yeah, this is definitely going to be a clown fiesta of every single character that's been around, plus some new ones.
And I suspect that it's going to be, you won't have all 50 at all times. They'll probably be split up amongst the 3 storylines and the 3 protagonists, with the potential maybe to have like a mega fest of everybody at the end for like the final dungeon or the final boss or something like that. So I don't expect it to be like super unmanageable in that sense, but still, that's a lot. That's really a lot of characters. But I'm looking forward to seeing hopefully all of my favorite characters from the past 3 arcs in this game, and getting to see what they're up to, and maybe like, I don't know, they mentioned episodic content in this, whether that means like the storylines are going to be composed of episodes, or if it means something like the doors from Trails in the Sky the Third that let you view events and background for characters or for the world at your leisure. So maybe it's something like we'll actually get to see some backstory, some lore. And like the name is, Hajimari no Kiseki is like loosely Trails of Origins or Trails of the Beginning. And that makes me wonder, well, what does that mean? Are we going to learn some more details about, say, the Great Collapse? Or, maybe some details about Ouroboros that we haven't really gotten yet, or something like that. So there's, I think, potential for some really cool plot developments and setup for future arcs. So I'm like, I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting to hear about a new game. I wasn't expecting to hear about 3 games. The new game sounds really cool. It's great that Zero and Kiseki, or Zero and Ao are getting ported, especially for us in the West, because the chances of us getting these games has jumped overnight from abysmal to sky high at this point. So it's been a very good week for Trails fans. And hopefully the good news continues next month at PAX South. NISA is having a panel there. There's been some suggestion that they might be announcing a PC port of Cold Steel 3. It's possibility. The wording of their panel is suggestive, basically. It's a panel about porting games to PC, and it mentions some of your favorites like Trails of Cold Steel 3. So maybe we find out about a port coming out alongside this at the same time as the Switch port that's coming out in the spring. I'm really hopeful that maybe they'll announce Cold Steel 4 localization, because they announced Cold Steel 3's localization at this year's PAX South in this past January. So, crossing my fingers.
I haven't bought Trails of Cold Steel 3 yet, mostly because I haven't finished Trails of Cold Steel 2, but I think I might wait and see on that Switch port that's coming out soon and see how it runs. And if it runs very, very nicely, I might go that way. But PS4 and PC are considerations. We're Trails fans outside Japan are very optimistic for many reasons, and that's exciting.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a good time to be a Trails fan right now. So
well, yeah, and now I guess it is crucial to have played kind of everything before, though, if they're introducing basically everybody from the series, because obviously with that many characters, they can't really give everybody exposition and growth and development. Yeah,
even though it's called Trails of the Beginning or Trails of Origins, I don't think it's an ideal first game to play for all of those reasons and more.
No. Yeah.
Which I guess the Trails 3rd would have been the same too. So other news that came out that also the two of you are pretty stoked about in general, since you were both actively playing Final Fantasy XIV.
I am not playing it actively. I am on break from it, but I will probably be getting back into it in the new year.
Well, Caitlin, I'm sure you've been on top of it, because we had the 5.1 patch release came out, which happened after last time you were on the episode and talking about all the good stuff that was in Shadowbringers.
It came out at the end of October, and I think We had an episode right around then, but I think I was talking so much about Cold Steel 3 that I didn't have time to mention it. So I'll just it's old news for people who are like playing the game religiously at this point, but I'll just brief little overview about that. So patch 5.1 came out at the end of October. This added, of course, some new main story content, a little bit of development in the story of Shadowbringers, largely just focused around, well, what do we do now? How do we get the Scions home? And giving us a little taste of things that are happening on the source. And there's some interesting developments that are looking to ramp up to like really, really bad stuff potentially happening. So we'll see more about what that means going forward. There was a new main story dungeon related to this patch, which is okay. It wasn't like, it was cute, and there were a few boss mechanics that I thought were kind of fun, but it was also kind of forgettable, so it's not really gonna be up there in my list of favorite dungeons. And I don't know, it's only the first post patch, so there's a lot of room for better dungeons. They introduced the first beast tribe for Shadowbringers, the Pixies. This is a Disciples of War and Magic beast tribe, so it's your combat classes.
What's a beast tribe being the Pixies? Like, what does that mean?
So every expansion, and of course Realm Reborn itself, had beast tribes. These are monsters isn't the right word, but they're basically the monster-like races of Eorzea that aren't part of normal civilized society. And in some cases, they are good factions of races that you fight or you go up against otherwise in the main story. So things like from Realm Reborn, you had the Amalja. They're like these gigantic cat people. Or you had let's see,
Final Fantasy fans might be familiar with Moogles from Heavensward.
Moogles, yeah, from Heavensward. Oh, the Moogles. Well, their quests were fine. The Moogle Beast Tribe quests were fine. It's the side story Moogle quests in Heavensward that were stupid. But yeah, Moogles from Heavensward. In Stormblood had like the Namazu, which was a crafting beast tribe.
And they're basically just story oriented. They're not obviously playable.
Yeah, no, you're basically helping members of a faction of these races establish themselves or achieve a goal or something, and you get experience from completing quests. You get currency that you can use to buy items, including things like minions and mounts from them, and you get a little bit of like cute story details as you help them out.
So they're worthwhile quests to pursue to get some extra bonus content.
They are great for leveling up. In fact, that's primarily what I was doing leading up to Shadowbringers release. I was trying really hard to get my crafters leveled, and one of the things I was doing was basically trying to do the crafting beast tribe quests from every expansion that I had access to help level my crafters a little bit, because from A Realm Reborn on, every expansion has had a crafting beast tribe. And that will eventually be the case with Shadowbringers, but Pixies are a DPS or a battle class beast tribe. They have such a cute little hub. It's adorable. It's a dreamland that you get to build up as you progress the story of the beast tribe, and you get it's like full of like candy and various different cool little like playgrounds and pavilions, and eventually a big beautiful like cherry tree or cherry blossom tree. It's honestly kind of like my favorite little hub area to go and play around in. So it's cool. I like it. And we'll see what future beast tribes in Shadowbringers are like. The other things from 5.1 were the new extreme trial, which, as is tradition, it's an extreme version of the final trial from 5.0 from the main patch. It was an okay fight. Traditionally, the extreme version of the final story trial is one of the hardest fights out of the entire extreme trial series for the expansion. And Haiti, this trial it's okay. It's harder than the extreme trials that came with the main patch, but it doesn't, to my mind, add up to the difficulty experienced from Heavensward and why am I blanking on my words?
Stormblood.
Heavensward and Stormblood's first, or story trial extreme mode. So I don't know. Your mileage will of course vary. At this point, I'm doing savage raids. I'm eating extreme trials for breakfast, so my perspective on difficulty might be a little skewed versus our listeners. So, but it's a new, decently challenging trial to take on, to get things like weapons and music and a mount. And thankfully, you get 2 totems per clear. So totems are what you use to turn in for weapons, and eventually down the road, like a couple patches later, we'll be able to buy the mount with them. So it's very nice that they gave us 2 totems per clear, because it's kind of a long fight. The other main things would be the 24-man series, which is Nier themed this time. I really love this dungeon. I love the music. It's got great Nier music, including a really nice remix of a main piece of music from Automata, combined with really nice, clever use of the Prelude theme from Final Fantasy. It's a fun series of fights that I really enjoy. I think I mentioned in my review that I kind of have been running it more than once a week, not necessarily to get drops, but just because it's a fun little series of fights to run through. The story is fairly rudimentary at this point. Like, it's just an introduction. You meet a few characters, some of whom are gonna obviously be from Automata. You get an introduction to the story dungeon, and you get a little bit of a send-off. Obviously, we'll learn more going forward. I'm looking forward to playing Automata in the near future, so I can have better context for this dungeon, and hopefully by the time that we get the next leg of this in 5.3, I'll know all the ins and outs, and I'll be able to recognize little story nods and whatnot. But it's good. Like, they're definitely continuing, from what I can tell, they're definitely continuing the high quality from Stormblood with the Evilise raids. It seems like they're going to do the same thing here with Nier, and for Nier fans, I think that is awesome. The other battle content that got added with 5.1, or rather right after 5.1, was the new Ultimate trial, which is the Epic of Alexander. And just like all the other Ultimates, I have no interest whatsoever in doing this content. This is the punishing level of difficulty for the raids, for the 8-man raids, and I think it's cool that it's there for people who really are interested in that. I'm fine with savage difficulty, so it looks cool, but I don't think I'm gonna want to be doing it anytime soon. And then last but not least, the Ishgard Restoration began with 5.1, or shortly after 5.1. And this is what a lot of people assume is we're basically rebuilding what will eventually become a housing district in Ishgard. And I think based on the appearance of the area, yeah, that's a pretty good guess. People have been clamoring for Ishgard housing forever, and this is kind of a cool way to get it by having crafters and gatherers involved in actually rebuilding that housing district. It has a lot of experience that it gets you. Doing turn-ins for Ishgard gets a lot of sweet EXP, so it's very useful for leveling your crafters.
It's just a lot of fetching, though, or is it fetching and building, or I guess crafting, rather?
It's
and then turning
in? It's both. So you can, of course, buy materials off the market board if you don't want to do the gathering, but you can gather all the materials that are used for crafting, and they don't provide any of those materials for you, so you have to either gather them yourself or buy them off the market board. And then you do, on a crafter, you would craft the item and turn it in. The way the system worked is that for every little section of progress, you fill up a meter by everybody on that server who's participating, doing turn-ins, doing collectible crafting turn-ins. And once you reach a certain amount of supplies, then you would trigger the countdown for a group fate where everybody who's in that instance, in that area, can participate. It was a really simple fate. It wasn't anything special. I think we all thought that it was going to be something cool, like having to work cooperatively with people to craft materials, but all it was about was clicking 3 different places, one after the other. So Square, step up your game maybe in the future, because it was a great way to level, because it guaranteed you a level up every time you did it. So it was worthwhile doing it, but it was incredibly simple. So I'm hoping that the next one will be a little bit different. And that's kind of the thing. They this content is in part designed to help people level their crafters. That's why the experience is so good. Because crafting is a lot. You have a bunch of classes just on the crafter side alone, then you throw in the 3 gatherers and you have a lot of classes to level, and it's a little intimidating, I think, for new people to come in, even now that they've revised crafting to make it a bit simpler and easier to manage. It's still intimidating to have to level all these different jobs. So having this content there as an option, in addition to things like leave quests and custom deliveries and stuff like that, to help you level your crafters, is great. I've been taking advantage of it to level my crafters, so I will definitely get my crafters leveled a lot faster than I would have otherwise. But so, it is what it is. It went by really quickly. All the worlds on all the servers, they hit the limit, the milestone limit for this leg of the restoration within about a week or so of it being released. So there's that. Like, you can still do turn-ins, but there's no more group fates until the next leg. So I'm not sure if they quite anticipated how quickly people were going to progress through this. And maybe that's an adjustment that they'll make in the future too, but we'll see. But speaking of the future, because that was a whole long spiel there. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a lot to cover, and
yeah,
who else knows it best?
So last Friday they had a live letter. It's part of they had a 14-hour broadcast. Not all live letter, but a 14-hour broadcast. A lot of it was showing a mahjong tournament that they were running. But they had a live letter where they went over some of the details of what's coming in patch 5.2. We have a name for the patch. It is Echoes of a Fallen Star, and it's going to be coming out mid-February 2020, which is about what we expected based on past post-expansion patches. Obviously, will involve more main story, and there is going to be a new story dungeon related to that. They showed us artwork. I think it was art and not a render of that new story dungeon, and it looks really pretty. It looks like it's going to be in the area of the last area from the main patch, which I won't. Well, at this point, I can probably say it's going to be in the Tempest more than like. Whether or not that'll mean it's related to events that happen in Tempest, I don't know, but it looks like it's going to be like an underwater palace or building or something like that, and so it might be really pretty. We're getting a new beast tribe, the Qatari. This is a gathering beast tribe, and that's really cool because there has not been a gathering beast tribe. All of the previous beast tribes that were not for battle classes were crafters, and while you could do some things with them on gatherers, like for instance the the Ixali Beast Tribe in A Realm Reborn, some of the quests would actually have you be doing things on your gatherers, small, like easy, really stuff. But the main turn-ins and the experience was always on a crafter class. So this is really cool that we'll actually get a beast tribe that lets gatherers level. I need it very badly because I have been focusing on my botanist and ignoring my miner and my fisher. So this will be a really good opportunity to get those leveled. So this will be cool. We're going to have, and this is the part that Mike's going to be really excited to talk about, the new Chronicles of a New Era quest, which is, in other words, the new trials that are going to be coming, the story and the extreme trials. Every expansion has had a series of 3 trials related to side stories, and Shadowbringers is going to be, apparently it's going to be the weapons from Final Fantasy VII, starting with Ruby Weapon.
That's right.
Which sounds right.
Basically, the two trial series from Heavensward and Stormblood were 3 enormous boss battles with a lot of cool story stuff surrounding them. There was a lot of there were some story sort of sequence instances in Heavensward and 2 dedicated dungeons in Stormblood. That's and they didn't really have a similarly set up trial series in Realm Reborn. For Realm Reborn, the special optional trials were mostly tied to the main story. They had 4 of them plus 2 sort of cap off story trials plus a 6th one that was truly optional that they adapted from a Fate. It's complicated, but this is this is the equivalent of the Four Lords quests from Stormblood or the Warring Triad quests from FF6. I'm sorry, the Warring Triad quests from Heavensward, which are the 3 statues from FF6. And the Stormblood were the Four Lords, Byakko, Genbu, Suzaku, Seiryu from Chinese folklore that were also bosses in Final Fantasy XI. They got their dedicated story in Stormblood. So we don't know what the context of this story is, but we know that it will be minimum 3 big boss battles that are weapons from Final Fantasy VII. I mean, logically that would be Ruby, Emerald, and Diamond, but there could be Sapphire weapon / capital letters weapon, or they could bring back a new version of Ultima weapon, even though that's already been a boss in the Final Fantasy XIV story. But full disclosure, Warring Triad and Four Lords are maybe my 2 favorite side quests in all of Final Fantasy XIV. I have not played as much of the game as Caitlin has. I've mostly been focusing on content clearing, so I've done a lot of I've done almost all the main story dungeons and trials through Stormblood, but I only played the beginning of Shadowbringers, and I haven't done a lot of side stuff related to crafting or gathering or several other side quests. But because I loved the previous 2 trial series so much, I was maybe more excited than usual to get an announcement for the Shadowbringers trial series, and I think that FF7 weapons are a great choice. They can definitely design some cool boss battles and deliver some cool musical themes for all of those. The music, maybe not all of the music tracks in boss battles, but the previous trial series had really cool boss designs and really cool music for the most part. I'm particular to the Seiryu boss battle music in Stormblood. That's a really good one.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's a really good one. But they get really creative with these boss battles and these side quests, and I'm really excited for the Shadowbringers trial series if and when I eventually get to level 80 content in FF14, because
you'll get there.
Yeah, I'll get there. I have I have 3 jobs at level 70, so I'll once I get back into the game, I will get and 1 job at level 71. I'll get right back into the game. Probably early in January, because also with this announcement, they announced a free login campaign.
Yes.
So people that have let their subscriptions lapse, like me, or people that haven't been playing in ages, or people that just want to get into the game new, can have 5 free days of Final Fantasy XIV whenever they want. With the window of that 5 days being, I believe it's between December 13th and January 14th, or around then. It's like basically a full.
That sounds right.
A full month from mid-December to mid-January. So I'm going to try and have my 5 days land in early January and just play as much Shadowbringers as I can.
See?
I may have to dabble as well and see how it handles on my new
do
system, because I wanted to boot it up back when, but because I activated my account during like one of those trial periods, it didn't count towards the... You have to have a brand new account if you actually want to play all the way up to level 30.
Oh, yeah,
but because I
mm-hmm.
technically had a paid account before, I'm not allowed to go back and do
that,
which was rather frustrating, and I don't want to.
It's level 35. If you have a new account, you can do any content up to level 35 for free under normal circumstances. But your timing was weird, so you don't get that free trial. That sucks.
Yeah,
no free trial for you.
But this 5 days free login campaign until mid-January, I think should be able to work for you. So that'll give you a 5-day window of your choosing to play FF14 again, which is something I'm looking forward to doing. Again, right around New Year's, I think, personally.
So that's the trial series. There's more. Obviously, we're going to have the next leg of the Eden Raid series in 5.2. They showed again, I think it was artwork of one of the battle arenas that had a bunch of lightning, so you guys can speculate as to which primal we're possibly going to be fighting. There's probably only one right answer. I saw some people throwing out Ixion, but I think we all know it's probably going to be Ramu.
Yeah, because the previous leg of the Eden raids gave us fancy versions of previously fought primals. So yeah. I think this is going to be... I mean, it'll be 4 encounters, presumably, but one of them is probably Fancy Ramu.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Fancy Ramu.
Mm-hmm.
If they're doing it, and they usually do, they do the same pattern. The first leg had 2 original fights and 2, like as Mike said, 2 fancier versions of primals that have already been fought in the Final Fantasy XIV stories.
Fancy is the technical term, of course.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have a top hat and a monocle now.
You can get a monocle. I'm pretty sure there's a top hat.
There is,
too,
yeah.
so...
there's a top.
As long as I can get Remo to wear it.
Oh, the top hat that I have is the level 60 Shire gear for mages. So my black mage has a top hat.
But I don't know if you can do them at the same time because they would both be headgear.
That's true. Yeah, I'm not sure about that either.
So you might have to choose what's more important to you. Choose your weapon, top hat or
that
monocle.
Level 60 black mage top hat looks pretty good though. I vouch for it.
I was gonna say you're a stage magician. That's rad.
So speaking of equipment, we are going to be getting relic weapons in 5.2. They did not really go into a lot of detail as to how it's going to work out, but I guess we'll see if it's going to be a newer version of Eureka from Stormblood, or if they're going to go back to doing building up charges or currency or whatnot by running old content. There's going to be another. This was part 1 of their 5.2 live letters, so we'll have another live letter closer to the patch coming out that will, I guess, give us more details about that. There's going to be, of course, more Ishgard restoration. They specifically mentioned that there'd be some high-end content for crafters coming in this. So the crafting in existing Ishgard restoration is pretty easy. Like, you can still macro it and sleep through it. So presumably that means there'll be some difficult recipes with the next one for people who are like at level 80 and want to. I guess they would be doing it to build script or to get other bonuses and whatnot. They're going to introduce the ranking system that they were talking about at some point alongside this patch, so we'll see, how that works. And they mentioned that they're going to be reworking Diadem from Heavensward, but for gatherers. There will be no enemies to fight or that will aggro you, and the idea that they had was you would kind of move around the islands in a circular fashion, gathering materials and potentially using items to find rare materials, and that'll be a thing. And I'm, again, alongside the gathering beast tribe that they're introducing, I'm liking the love here for my gatherers, that I will finally have more options to level. So that's cool. And alongside that, of course, will be some other crafting and gathering updates that should make things easier, even easier and more transparent for crafting. And then they mentioned this little random thing that is cool. They're going to bring umbrellas to the game. We're getting umbrellas, guys. And, like, I'm not sure what they mean, like, it's just going to be a piece of equipment that you use, that you glamour, or if it's going to be something that you can just, like an emote or whatnot.
Just a little parasol.
But yeah, we're getting umbrellas. That's a thing. That's cool. So, and...
Just when do you make Peach now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it would be cool if you could, like, fly with it, too. Or, like, Mary Poppins. Cue somebody, you know, glamoring the character to look like Yondu and going, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
Yeah, no kidding.
It's gonna happen. There's somebody out there who has a character that's either named Yondu or is some horrible combination of I'm Mary Poppins, y'all, trying to fit it into a first name, last name structure.
Or they could do it where, it's just a new Disciple of War class, and you're like from the you're like John Steed from the Avengers, or one of the characters, or one of the characters from Kingsman, and just having stylish umbrella duels.
Yes,
I support this.
Oh, that'd be so cool. They could also have like, I don't know, like a not a gunbreaker, but a machinist weapon that's like penguins parasol with a
an
gun,
umbrella machine gun, like a
yeah. So the possibilities are endless. Umbrellas will change everything. And that's all I have to talk about when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV. I left off with the most exciting piece of news, and that is umbrellas.
Which could also change nothing if they're just glamours.
Yeah,
it could be a glamour for a gunbreaker. Have a gunbrella weapon where when they cast
fun.
Heart of Stone or something, the umbrella opens like a shield.
Yes, I like it. Do it
Dope.
square.
Well, moving forward, since due to technical issues, we do have a truncated episode, let's talk about the future with a little quick touch on the past. So 2019, we often complained, always amongst ourselves, about too many games and too many good games. Let's just pick one good highlight from 2019. What's one 2019 title, Mike, that you're glad that you got to get done during 2019?
This is the game that I've finished most recently, and we haven't finished all of our Game of the Year stuff, but I think this is my personal Game of the Year, and that is AI: The Somnium Files.
Right, which came out back September 17th. Audra reviewed it quite highly.
It received an editor's choice from Audra, and it took me by surprise a little bit, because I'm a big fan of Uchikoshi's other games. This is the guy that wrote Ever 17 and Never 7, and I think another game with a number in it. And then he wrote the Zero Escape trilogy, which is 999, Virtue's Last Reward, and Zero Time Dilemma. And I knew he was making a new game, but the news cycle of when it was coming out and what it was had escaped me a little bit. I'm sure I read some news about it over a year ago or so, but coming out when it did surprised me. I hadn't really planned for it. It's like, oh damn, Uchikoshi's new game is out. Oh, okay, I guess I'll get to it eventually. And then it got really strong reviews everywhere, including from our own Audra Bowling, and that made me really interested in it. So I got a copy off a slight discount right after Thanksgiving. And I loved it so much. The game's about 25 or 30 hours, and I beat it in something like 10 days. I was just transfixed the whole time. So fans of the Zero Escape series, fans of adventure games or visual novels, this is excellent. We were talking about how Hajimari no Kiseki will have multiple story paths that you can jump between. And Uchikoshi's previous games, especially Virtue's Last Reward and Zero Time Dilemma, really, really work that gimmick hard. And they sort of explore what that timeline stuff is, both from a story perspective and a gameplay perspective, more heavily in the Zero Escape series. Basically, the Somnium Files is a murder investigation where there is a killer who is leaving corpses around town and removing one eye of the corpse. So they're being called the Cyclops Killer. And you, the main character, are a detective named Date who lost an eye in a mysterious incident 6 years ago that you're not sure why. So are the two things related? Maybe. But in place of your missing eye, you have an artificial intelligence eyeball whose name is Aiba, which is short for AI eyeball. And she's basically a sassy anime girl that lives in your brain and talks and works out cases with you, and also gives you some eye powers like zooming in long distances, or limited X-ray vision, or limited infrared vision. So you explore crime scenes, and interview suspects and witnesses with Detective Date and his AI partner. And that's sort of half of the sci-fi elements of this RPG. But the other half are during certain situations in the story, if there's someone who is withholding information during an interrogation, or one early one is a girl who's too traumatized to properly answer questions, you can sort of Inception style enter someone's dreams. And by exploring their dreams in special puzzle stages called somniums, you can sort of determine their secrets and get them to and learn new information. So
that sounds cool.
It is cool. So it's they're less intense than the Zero Escape puzzle rooms. A lot of it sort of, you have to do some adventure game logic, like you again, these people's psyches are confusing and dreamlike, so it's things won't always make sense. And you have like time points that are constantly depleting as you take actions within the somnium. So that the puzzle is sort of getting to where, like, doing all the appropriate actions in order while still having time left on the clock. Because like you're avoiding spoilers here, but there are you're time limited because there's consequences if you stay inside someone's somnium for more than 6 minutes. And in these somniums, in I think 4 or 5 of them, there are branching pathways to, like, depending on how you solve that particular somnium, creates new timelines for how the game progresses. It's usually pretty delineated, like, oh, this somnium has a branching path here somewhere, so that means there must be 2 solutions to the puzzle. And it's represented when you're back in the main game and out of the somnium. It's represented by like a police cork board with string going between photos. Like story paths and the timeline you're on are represented by an investigative, like, connected photos on that you'd see in a police drama or something.
Yeah, for sure. The game had a lot of style going
yes.
for it. Like, I watched the video review we did of it, and it looks super polished.
It's very anime, but very polished. And without, again, avoiding spoilers, there are 5 endings, and to sort of properly experience the whole game, they make you watch all 5. With the final one sort of being the true ending, and one of the previous 4 being like the darkest timeline kind of ending, that where you learn a lot about the main villain. But it's just a really, really cool murder mystery story with and Uchikoshi is a really cool, unique voice in visual novels who blends big drama with sci-fi elements beautifully. And I don't know if this is my favorite one of his games, but it is at the level of 999 and Virtue's Last Reward. So if you like those, you absolutely should play this. I wish there were fewer jokes about pornography, because there are several, which is several too many. But this is a game that is funny, poignant. Has some really wild twists, and at certain endings, happy tears were coming to my eyes. So this is a really, really excellent visual novel / puzzle adventure. And, now that I'm negotiating it again in my head, I think it probably is my game of the year.
That sounds fantastic. I love it when you can be touched, like, so personally by something that it affects you just through.
Yeah, and I feel like such a dummy because I completely forgot this game was coming out in 2019. Like I remember news stuff a while ago when it was being made, and then boom, suddenly we get an unexpected review from Audra in September, and I'm like, what? This came out, and it's awesome. I guess I got to budget around this a little bit, and getting it when I did and playing it in the first half of December was absolutely the right choice. This game's great.
That's awesome to hear.
I'm glad to hear it too, because I'm pretty sure I'm getting it for Christmas. So,
well, whoever is giving it to you, they have good taste, because this game rules.
Oh, they don't. I made an Amazon wish list and gave it to them, and they just bought things off it. Yeah,
I was doing some texting with our mutual friend Alana while we were playing this game basically at the same time. And I played it on PS4 and she played it on Switch, and it appears to run very well on both platforms.
That's good to know.
And I think it might also be coming out on PC, or already is out on PC. But at least the PS4 and Switch versions work okay.
Always important.
Yeah, exactly. For myself, I really didn't get to play a whole lot of 2019 games, unfortunately, because it was very busy. Well, I guess we really had a big surge of I guess remakes and such. So I've gotten to play a lot of past games that have just kind of been remade and repurposed for modern consoles, which I guess isn't a big problem because it's filling in gaps in my gaming history. But I guess like the most modern thing that I've put the most time into was Iceborne. But honestly, what took me most by surprise was game from 2017, which was Thea the Awakening. I've loosely mentioned on the podcast. I still haven't really talked about it because I did a review of it. It was ported to the Switch and just kind of caught me off guard how cool it was, meshing a bunch of different kind of gameplay elements into this really beautifully executed indie game. And it's kind of looks and plays like a Sid Meier's Civilization. And it's on like a hex kind of layout, and you have a town, and you kind of manage the town. So that's one part of it. There's town management, citizen management, a bit of resource management, because you can like upgrade it and upgrade your buildings, collect more resources to feed the people, and to put into developing your technology and developing your buildings. Because also the more quality ingredients you put into building a building and stuff like that, it will increase the benefits it gives you. So like, you know, on the face value, it's like, oh, just give you X amount of food every turn. But otherwise it could like attract certain characters to join your town if it's made with better quality materials, and it gives you a higher score towards your research and towards your global leveling up of all your characters. Because it plays on a turn-by-turn basis, like a strategy game in the vein of Civilization. But then on the other half of it, there's like a turn-based RPG aspect where you have your party of you have your entire like your settlement of people, and you can send them out in expedition parties, and essentially they start becoming like your adventuring D&D group that goes out and explores local dungeons or gets into encounters with enemies on the map, or just has every turn there's a random chance something randomly might happen. It could be an earthquake. You could randomly run into this mysterious elf, and you have to navigate kind of like a visual novel kind of aspect of wall of script that's really beautifully narrated by their narrator. And then you get to have choices based on the kind of characters you have in your party. So if you happen to have someone who is good at magic, you know, they could try casting a spell to remove a hex on something, or you could just outright fight the thing or try and talk your way out of it. And all of it goes into like this turn-based card game where your characters are split into two halves. Like one half is the active party, the other half can boost the party, and you're just playing cards back and forth to try and overcome all the challenges, whether it's a fight, whether it's talking, magic, stealth. All of it is interpreted into this card game. So it's like a whole bunch of like Euro game aspects mixed with like a D&D adventuring party thrown into like a Sid Meier's Civilization that sounds really messy and works out beautifully. It caught me by surprise like how addicted I became to it, because it definitely gives you that one more turn kind of thing, and before you know it, it's 5 a.m.
I have been there with Sid Meier's games many times in the past, which you
yes.
compared these two.
Well, and that's exactly it, and this definitely did that to me in all the best ways. Like, I just wanted to keep playing, and all of it takes place in this kind of like Nordic Slavic kind of mythology, and based on kind of that folklore. So like you have like Baba Yagas that you can come across, and you can actually, but I thought it was really cool when I happened to do something and I managed to recruit a Baba Yaga to my party. And then the game completely won me over when I randomly recruited a wolf.
It's not the boogeyman.
Get anything to join me.
It's the one you call to kill the freaking boogeyman.
Oh, exactly. It was like you get the boogeyman join. You can get vampires to join you. Get orcs. Like all this random stuff. Like I had a random encounter where I happened to like navigate a conversation, so I didn't just outright fight orcs. And then they're just like, "All right, we've done well. You know, meeting between our two people. Let's take this a step further. You give me one of your people, I'll give you one of mine, and we'll call it like a cultural learning experience trade kind of thing." But they were like randomly going to take someone from my party, so it could have been like I had this like epically awesome dwarf that was just kicking everybody's butt in battle, and I was like, I don't want to lose him, but it's all random. And thankfully they took someone that was okay, but I could stand to lose it. And then I got this orc who was really good in combat, and it was just kind of neat that all your choices, how the outcomes come about. It's got a lot more flexibility in the PC version because they are adding new events a little more regularly, and also the community can build events because there's a whole like in-game PC on the PC event building thing, so you can kind of make your own encounters. But the Switch one has like all the expansions on it. It's really neat, and it was just completely caught me off guard how awesome it was. And that was probably like my winner this year, despite how much I really enjoyed diving into Iceborne.
Sounds like a really interesting and great mashup of different things, like that you maybe wouldn't expect to work as well as it does, but it does.
Yeah, I can't wait to try the second one. I wanted to get to it a lot sooner than I did, but then I started taking on other review projects and such. So, because the second one has a bit more clearly budget into it, so a bit more graphic polish, but it's still, it may look a little more like, Civilization 3 or 4 dated wise, but it's not. It reads well. Like it's a good looking game despite its slight dated fringes. And for yourself, Caitlin, what was your hot game of 2019?
Oh, well, I mean, like, if we're just talking about, like, favorite game, I mean, like, I'm not going to surprise anyone by mentioning things like Final Fantasy XIV and Kiseki. Right. But also the thing is, I haven't really played a lot this year. I think I mentioned this on the last episode I was on. Like, I was doing a series playthrough of all the Trails games, and outside of Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, and I got Death Stranding. I've been playing Death Stranding. It's okay.
How do you feel about it?
It's honestly, I don't know how I feel about the story, because the story is really slow and weird in a typical Kojima fashion. Like, if you play a Kojima game, like this is him being weird and pseudo like unpenetrable sci-fi bullshit. So I don't know story-wise. I really like just exploring the world. And maybe a good deal of that is simply because it uses the engine from Horizon, which I love so very, very much.
It's beautiful to walk around in. That's
yeah.
for sure.
So I'm enjoying the world, and I'm enjoying aspects of the gameplay. So, but I'm still kind of like jury is out on it. Like, I want to keep playing it, so that's a good thing. But I need to like, I guess, beat it before I can really like come down on it's good, it's bad, it's okay, it's Kojima.
Or I was gonna say, it sounds like it's gonna be like, what the hell did I just experience?
There's already been some kind of like WTF moments, and from what I hear, I haven't even seen anything yet. So like, we'll see. I haven't played it all. I haven't gotten as far as I would have liked to, because I traveled for Thanksgiving, so I had to take a break. And then when I got back, I was really distracted by a bunch of things and wasn't playing a lot to begin with for like the week or two after I got back. But I'm on it again, and I'm going to try and get it finished before the end of the year so that I can finally play other games. All these awesome games that came out. Like, I bought Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's sitting on my Switch, and I have not booted it up because I did not have time to play it back when I bought it, and I didn't want to start playing it now when I'm working through another game, because that never works out well for me, trying to juggle, like, aside from like Final Fantasy XIV, which is easy to juggle because I'm mostly just doing like high-end content. It never worked well for me when I try to juggle two actual like story-based games. So I'm gonna beat.
It gets all muddled.
I'm gonna beat Death Stranding and then try to start Three Houses. But there's so many other games that I passed on.
I'm almost in the opposite situation from Caitlin, because I'm trying to finish some 2018 and 2019 games before the end of the year, so I could get back to Trails and Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
But
if the question is what was my favorite gaming experience, not going to surprise anyone, but playing through all the Trails games, like actually finally, I say forcing myself, but in the end, I really enjoyed the time I spent with them playing the Sky trilogy, playing Zero and Ow, despite kind of laughable fan translations. Just being able to have the whole experience and see the things I'd missed because I didn't think I would get into them or didn't have time for them. I'm grateful that I made myself do that, because it's, like I think I mentioned before, it's made me into even more of a fan of the series. I now think of myself as like I'm a mega fan. I'm a super fan. Not necessarily in the sense that I like am all knowing super fan, but like I'm just super there for Trails now. It's become one of my favorite series of RPGs, just, you know, in general. So that would be it. And, you know, like I said, I didn't really play much else, so it kind of had to be Trails.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'll be coming to you when I break into the series finally. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Based on your in-depth knowledge. But this leads me into, I guess, what my next question is, just to follow up to this as we finish out the episode, is an idea that Mike gave us at the beginning of, based on what they've been talking about in Retro. Just what are your resolutions for next year? Because it sounded like you had a resolution to be like, I'm going to get through all the Trails games before I get to 3. So that was probably a big undertaking, as it was, and why it dominated so much of your year. So we'll go in reverse order, starting with you, Caitlin. Like, what's your resolution for 2020 gaming wise? Doesn't have to be current or past or whatever, but what do you want to accomplish next year for gaming?
Mainly I just want to find time if I can. It's going to be kind of hard in spring to find time to play some of the games that I had to pass on earlier this year because I was so focused on Kiseki. Like, I want to play AI Something Unfiled. I want to play Three Houses really badly. I've been meaning to do this, and I don't know when it's going to happen. This is something that may not happen until late next year. I need to play Devil May Cry. I need to play the entire series.
You've come to the right place.
Right? Yeah. So that's something I want to do. I also really wanted to try out the Resident Evil remakes, since we've been seeing a lot of news about Resident Evil 3 remake in the last couple weeks. There's no way I'm gonna get all that done because like March, April, May is a madhouse of like, holy crap, you know, between Final Fantasy VII Remake and Cyberpunk and then Last of Us Part 2 and I think Cold Steel 3 on no, not Cold Steel 3.
Well, Cold Steel 3 on Switch does come out next year.
Is it in March?
I think they said spring, but I don't know if we have a month yet.
There's another game that's coming out in March.
Final Fantasy VII Remake, you said already.
Yeah. I forget what it was,
Animal Crossing? Is that March or May?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
But I'm excited for that myself, but that's a different story. Well, in about a few minutes, we're going to quickly turn this over into Capcom Encounter, where Mike will school you on Devil May Cry.
Yes!
Teach
me, senpai!
The proper order to play them is first 3, then 1, then Forget 2 exists, then 4, then 5. And then you can play the Ninja Theory 1 is an optional choice. But yeah, Devil May Cry 5 is excellent. It's only around 9 or 10 hours, so you probably could finagle it in there somewhere, Caitlin. But it's I really, really enjoyed Devil May Cry 5. It was one of my favorite games of the year. But this really awesome. Isn't Capcom Encounter, so no, maybe that'll all get cut out.
Nah, I like it. I am going to resolve to finish Fire Emblem Three Houses. I really liked getting into it back when I played it for review capture and such, but like yourself, Kaylin, just other things came up, other priorities had to push the game aside. So that's one of my biggest things I'm really wanting to accomplish next year. And
sorry.
Yep,
Persona 5 Royale is in March. That's the other March game I was thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just looking at my phone because it was bugging me. Like, I know it's another March game that I really wanted to play. What is it?
It's okay.
Yeah.
I have no interest in Persona for whatever reason. I feel like I will eventually get to them, but it's just never been on my radar. But Fire Emblem Three Houses is basically, I guess, that kind of.
Yeah, there's a lot of Persona DNA in Fire Emblem, but I mean, I would also say that about Trails of Cold Steel because the Persona sort of social link elements, right, I think influenced a lot of the school life stuff in Trails of Cold Steel.
Nice.
And Fire Emblem Three Houses. Yep.
Well, exactly. And so that's my biggest thing I want to undertake, and I am looking forward to re-experiencing new Trials of Mana with Gwen and possibly best friend Pat if they have online play. I'm excited to hear more details as that grows, but it's shaping up to be a pretty solid
This will not shock you, but I am also interested in that.
Really? Yes, not shocked at all. Was it January it's slated for?
No, April.
Oh, it's April, okay. Happy birthday to me.
January. My 2020 is planned out pretty early on. April. Back it up a little bit. January is the remake of Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Hashtag FE. Then in March we have the Final Fantasy VII remake, which I'm very excited for since demoing it at E3. And then April is the Trials of Mana remake. So those are 3 remakes that are going to dominate the first half of my 2020.
The first half of the year is just so ridiculous. Like, February is the only month where there isn't something big, I think. Or rather, let me amend. It's the only month where there isn't something on my radar at present.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something somebody cares about. Some sort of Fortnite DLC
something I'm forgetting. But 2020 already looks pretty juicy, and I'm excited.
Yes.
Well, to that end, Mike, what is your resolution for next year?
Sure. I think there's a couple backlog games I'm targeting. A couple of which you've already mentioned. Trails of Cold Steel 2 and Nier Automata are 2 of them. Zelda Majora's Mask is one of them because I've been avoiding playing that game for 15 years or longer. I'm a big Zelda fan, but I haven't played more than an hour of that, even though I own it in 2 different forms. So that's something I want to knock out. And for stuff that comes out in 2020. We did 2 episodes on Majora's Mask in 2017. But Trails of Cold Steel and Nier Automata, maybe. I don't know. That's something worth thinking about. But the for things that are maybe 2020 hopes that I'm not 100% certain of, East 9 Monstrum Nox came out in Japan in September of this year, and I really would like that to receive a worldwide localization. And if East 9 comes out in North America in 2020, you bet your ass I'm pre-ordering that thing. So that's one I would be excited for, but I can't say I'm 100% certain it's coming out.
That's fair.
Oh, and the one other one I was thinking of, oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank now. Oh no, now not anymore. Bravely Default 2. Yes, that was announced at the Game Awards a few weekends ago, depending on when this episode comes out. And I'm a huge fan of Bravely Default and Bravely Second. It's the story's cute, the class system is dope, the mechanics of battle are very cool, ideas surrounding regular turn-based combat. It's a Final Fantasy in all but name because there's white mages, black mages, Phoenix Downs, all that jazz.
Yeah,
I love the first 2. I even wrote the RPG fan review of Bravely Second. And I'm really excited for Bravely Default 2, and I think they basically confirmed it's 2020 worldwide. So that's another one that right up there with East 9 is like, as soon as I hear a release date, I am gonna budget around that month.
Did you do 4 Warriors of Light as well? Which is basically the root of it all?
That's basically Bravely Zero, and I played through about half of it. It was a borrowed copy. I don't own it. But it didn't 100% grab me, but Bravely Default did, and
it's very baby's first RPG. That's
for sure. Well, it gets kind of too hard to be baby's first RPG, but
that's weird. That's the weird thing about it. Yeah, it ramps.
Yeah,
up.
By the time I stopped playing, it was like, oh, this game got challenging all of a sudden. But no, I'm
stuck on the final boss myself.
But even though I don't have a lot of attachment to 4 Heroes of Light, I am very attached to Bravely Default and Bravely Second, and Bravely Default 2, third game in the series. It has 2 at the end. It's weird, I know. The way that they are weird and subversive about Endgame and how they treat things like New Game Plus and multiple playthroughs, like there might be a story justification for why it's Bravely Default 2 and not Bravely Third or Bravely Second squared.
Because it's not a working title either.
No, that's the official title. Yeah. This isn't like Project Octopath Traveler becoming regular Octopath Traveler. So I'm...
what a shocker that one was.
Exactly. I'm really excited to see how that one turns out. So on the hopeful side, East 9. On the more solid ground side, Bravely Default 2. Those are 2 of my And then also on the backlog side, Majora's Mask and Nier Automata and Trails of Cold Steel 2. That's a lot of my 2020 already. So thank you for indulging me.
I just picture them looking at the Octopath Traveler, like the whiteboard, and just being like, well, we got this or we got 8 people walking. Let's just keep it Octopath Traveler. For me, my hope is we finally get an FFT War of the Lions Steam port. That's my hope for 2020. I want that. Please do it. Just give me War of the Lions on a big screen.
Mm-hmm.
Without the PSP slowdown.
Yeah, exactly. And Caitlin, what's your wild speculation, dream, hope for 2020?
Oh,
I feel like what it is based on our earlier conversation, but
I really want Cold Steel 4 to come out next fall, and I think there's a good chance that it will. Right. Based on how Falcom has licensed their games in the past, and kind of trying to figure out when did NISA probably start working on Cold Steel 3. I think it's certainly doable that it comes out at the end of next year, if not early 2021. But that's something I really want. The other thing I'm super psyched about, like, it's confirmed for 2020, so it's not like a, big hope, but I just want Xenoblade Chronicles definitive. I want Xenoblade Chronicles in glorious HD.
Yeah, I might have to rebuy that.
Oh,
I'm really mad at myself.
I am pre-ordering that. If I probably already could pre-order it on Amazon, but like I'm that's day one. That's going in my Switch, and I am playing it day one.
There you go. I want to make some sort of like 3-way wager now as to which speculation will come true, but I feel like you're just gonna win with Cold Steel 4 because I feel like that seems very likely.
Yeah,
much more likely than me getting my wish. But at any rate, on that note, listeners, please, you can email me at podcast@rpgfan.com and you can tell me all the things that you wildly speculate about for the coming year, what you get up to with Christmas. I like hearing from you folks. You're all pretty nice, to be honest. And we all like to be just as approachable. So send us your emails. If you don't want to send emails, keep listening to the podcast. You can also listen to Retro Encounter. What's on the docket, Mike, for Retro coming into the holidays?
Sure. We have our special year-end episode that we record every year, and after that, we are doing an episode on the PlayStation in early January. A spoiler cast of my Game of the Year, AI: The Somnium Files, also in early January, and then I will not be on these episodes. But we're doing 2 episodes on Suikoden 5. In the second half of January. So, and that was the response to a fan poll. So I know that at least nice. Some portion of our fans are excited to hear us talk about Suikoden 5.
I'm not sure what Eric and Hat have going on over at the Phoenix Edge podcast, but you can listen to them. I'm sure they're going to have some sort of rundown of everything that's happened in the year in review. And finally, if you're missing RPG music and need to be exposed to it from 4 years ago, I guess, 3 years ago. I don't know how long it's been now. But go listen to Rhythm Encounter. Let it know it still is loved. And look forward to, I guess, our Music of the Year feature when it comes up, because that'll have a lot of hot takes from this year too.
Yeah, we have Game of the Year that should be out by the time this comes out or close to it. Then Music of the Year. Then probably a Most Anticipated of 2020. Then probably something else. There's always something going on in the main site.
And all of you fans, there's the Fans' Choice Awards too, Reader's Choice. Yeah, that's another thing as well. So, send in
go
those
vote.
Votes. Yes.
Actually, wait a second. Will this be up before the voting ends?
I'm not certain.
You better have voted in the past, okay? Or you better have a time machine.
I feel like voting might be done by next week, right? So hopefully you voted. There we go. We got there. At any rate, folks, thank you so much for listening. Have a great holiday season. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, everything that happens in this time of year. I'm sure I'm missing something, and I'm sorry if I offend. Either way, whatever you celebrate, enjoy being with family, friends, and the people that you love. Have a great new year for myself, for Caitlin, for Mike. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye now.